Она остановила незнакомца у закрытого здания суда и умоляла его жениться на ней до утра. Он тут же согласился. Она не знала, что бизнесмен, за которого она только что вышла замуж, был скрывающимся боссом мафии, и его враги уже наблюдали за ним. Дождь лил как из ведра, превращая тротуар в зеркало из неоновых огней и фар. Анна стояла у ЗАГСа, глядя на запертые стеклянные двери, словно они могли открыться благодаря силе ее воли. Но они не открылись. Она проверила телефон. 23:47. Через 12 часов 13 минут она потеряет все. Дом ее бабушки, единственное, что осталось, что пахло домом, коричным чаем и старыми книгами, будет конфискован банком. Все из-за пункта в завещании ее деда, который она не удосужилась прочитать, пока не стало слишком поздно. Имущество переходит к старейшему внуку по браку до 30 лет или возвращается в ликвидационную массу. Анне исполнилось 30 в прошлом месяце. Она неделями пыталась найти лазейку, адвоката, кого угодно, кто мог бы помочь. Но завещание было железным, а срок завтра в полдень. Нет свидетельства о браке, нет дома. Это было средневеково и абсурдно, но это был закон. И вот она стояла, промокшая до нитки, без плана и без вариантов. Тут она его увидела. Он вышел из скрытой парковки через дорогу, двигаясь с такой уверенностью, которая не спешила прятаться от дождя. Высокий, в темном костюме, который, вероятно, стоил дороже ее машины, с острым подбородком и глазами, которые, казалось, все оценивали, к чему прикасались. Он нес зонт, но не удосужился его открыть. Анна не думала. Мысли не привели ее ни к чему. Она побежала. «Простите». Ее голос дрогнул, когда она встала прямо на его пути. «Мне... мне нужна ваша помощь». Мужчина остановился. Вблизи он был еще более пугающим. Не потому, что он был большим, а потому, что он был совершенно пугающе неподвижен, как хищник, решающий, стоите ли вы усилий. «Двигайтесь». Его голос был низким. Акцент еле уловимый. Европейский, может быть, русский. «Мне нужен муж», — выпалила Анна. Это привлекло его внимание. Одна темная бровь слегка приподнялась. «Простите?» «Не, не так. Я имею в виду, да, именно так, но не по тем причинам, о которых вы думаете». Слова вырвались в отчаянной спешке. «Мне нужно выйти замуж к завтрашнему полудню, иначе я потеряю свой дом. Дом моей бабушки. Это единственное, что у меня осталось. И там есть этот дурацкий пункт, и я все перепробовала, а ЗАГС закрыт, и я не знаю, что еще делать». Она бормотала. Она знала, что бормочет, но не могла остановиться. «Я не сумасшедшая, клянусь. Мне просто... Мне нужен кто-то, чтобы подписать бумаги завтра утром. Вот и все. Вам больше никогда не придется меня видеть. Я могу заплатить вам. Немного, но... Сколько?» Анна моргнула. «Что? Сколько вы можете заплатить?» Он наклонил голову, изучая ее, как кто-то мог бы изучать интересное насекомое. Не жестоко, просто любопытно. 3000 рублей. Это все, что у меня есть на сбережениях. Но ее сердце сжалось, конечно. Чего она ожидала? Что какой-то незнакомец в дорогом костюме просто согласится жениться на ней, потому что она вежливо попросила. Она отступила. «Верно. Простите. Я не должна была. Я сделаю это бесплатно». Анна замерла. «Что?» Мужчина положил одну руку в карман совершенно спокойно, как будто каждую среду соглашался жениться на незнакомцах. «Я женюсь на вас завтра. Оплата не требуется». «Я бы... Это имеет значение?» «Да, конечно, имеет значение. Люди не соглашаются жениться на незнакомцах без причины». Что-то мелькнуло в его глазах. Возможно, amusement или расчет. «Скажем так, у меня есть свои причины. Вам нужен муж к завтрашнему дню. Мне нужна...» Он замолчал, тщательно подбирая слова. «Временная договоренность, которая выгодна нам обоим». Инстинкты Анны кричали, что это ужасная идея, что нормальные люди так не поступают, что ей следует уйти прямо сейчас и найти другое решение. Но у нее не было времени, не было вариантов, не было ничего, кроме отчаяния. «Хорошо», — прошептала она. «Хорошо», — повторил он. Затем он протянул руку. «Виктор». Она взяла ее. Его рукопожатие было крепким, теплым, несмотря на дождь. «Анна». «Ну, Анна». Виктор отпустил ее руку и, наконец, открыл свой зонт, держа его над ними обоими. Нам следует обсудить условия. В 2 кварталах отсюда есть кафе. Еще открыто. Вам нужен был муж к завтрашнему дню. Это дает нам меньше 12 часов, чтобы это выглядело законно. Он начал идти, явно ожидая, что она последует за ним. Нам нужно будет установить историю, скоординировать документы и установить очень четкие границы. Анна поспешила за ним, голова кружилась. Это было безумие. Это было самое безрассудное, что она когда-либо делала. Но пока они шли по залитым дождем улицам, что-то, сказанное Виктором, не давало ей покоя. Сделать это выглядящим законно. Не сделать это законным или сделать это официальным, а сделать это выглядящим законно, как будто кто-то может наблюдать. Она взглянула на профиль Виктора, сильный, контролируемый, тщательно пустой, лицо, которое ничего не выдавало. «Чем вы зарабатываете на жизнь?» — спросила она. «Импорт и экспорт». «Чего?» Губы Виктора изогнулись в нечто, что не было совсем улыбкой. «Различных вещей. Ничего, о чем вам стоит беспокоиться». Это должно было быть ее вторым предупреждением. Первым было согласие выйти замуж за совершенно незнакомого человека, но Анне было холодно, мокро, и у нее заканчивалось время. Поэтому она плотнее запахнула куртку и последовала за Виктором в теплое свечение кафе впереди, говоря себе, что 24 часа с таинственным незнакомцем — небольшая цена за спасение ее дома. Она понятия не имела, как сильно она ошибалась, или что к завтрашнему вечеру ей придется бежать, спасая свою жизнь. Кафе было почти пустым. Уставший бариста протирал стойку, а старик пил кофе в углу, погруженный в газету. Виктор выбрал кабинку сзади, подальше от окон, выходящих на дверь. Анна села напротив, внезапно осознав, как она, должно быть, выглядит. Вся мокрая, волосы прилипли к лицу. Отчаяние написано на всем ее облике. Виктор же выглядел совершенно собранным. Он едва промок. «Кофе?» — спросил он. «Ах, да, пожалуйста». Он заказал 2 черных кофе, не спросив, как она пьет свой. Когда они принесли, Анна обхватила чашку руками, благодарная за тепло. Виктор не притронулся к своему. Он откинулся назад, изучая ее своими нечитаемыми темными глазами. «Расскажите мне о доме», — сказал он. «Он ничего особенного. Маленький, 2 спальни. Моя бабушка вырастила меня там после смерти моих родителей. Она умерла полгода назад, и я думала, что дом мой, но, видимо, у моего деда были другие идеи относительно наследства и брака, и...» Она остановилась. «Ладно, вам не нужна история моей жизни». «Нет», — согласился Виктор. «Мне не нужна, но мне нужно знать, что мы защищаем и почему. Детали имеют значение. Почему вам это интересно? Потому что если мы это делаем, мы должны это делать правильно. Полумеры приводят к проблемам». «Проблемам». Странный выбор слов. «ЗАГС открывается в 9», — сказала Анна, отгоняя эту мысль. «Мы подписываем бумаги. Я отнесу их своему адвокату к полудню, а потом вы свободны. Я больше не буду вас беспокоить». «Нет». Анна моргнула. «Нет, так это не работает». Виктор, наконец, поднял свой кофе, сделал один медленный глоток. «Если мы поженимся утром, а я исчезну к полудню, это будет выглядеть подозрительно. У браков есть свидетели, бумажный след, цифровой след. Люди замечают несоответствие. Кто это заметит? Это же просто бумажная работа. Ваш адвокат заметит, банк заметит. И если они решат расследовать, является ли этот брак законным, они найдут очень удобным то, что ваш муж исчез в тот момент, когда вы обеспечили свое наследство. Он был прав. Анне не нравилось, что он был прав. «Так что вы предлагаете?» «48 часов», — сказал Виктор. «Мы сохраняем видимость законных отношений в течение 2 полных дней. Я остаюсь у вас дома завтра вечером. Нас видят вместе на публике. Может быть, мы сделаем несколько фотографий. К тому времени, как я уйду, это будет выглядеть как бурный роман, который просто не сложился». Желудок Анны скрутило. Его присутствие в ее доме, в ее пространстве казалось намного более инвазивным, чем подписание бумаг. Но какой у нее был выбор? Хорошо, 48 часов. Отлично. Виктор поставил свою чашку. Теперь правило. Во-первых, никаких вопросов о моей работе, моем прошлом или о том, куда я иду, когда я не с вами. То, что вы не знаете, не может вам навредить. То, как он это сказал, заставило кожу Анны покрыться мурашками. Во-вторых, никакой эмоциональной привязанности. Это сделка. Мы помогаем друг другу. Ничего больше. Очевидно. В-третьих, если в какой-то момент я скажу вам что-то сделать, вы делаете это немедленно, без споров. Нет, подождите, что? Зачем вам нужно будет мне что-то говорить? Выражение лица Виктора не изменилось, но что-то затвердело в его глазах. Страховка. Считайте это моей платой за помощь вам. Это не... Это мои условия, Анна. Примите их или найдите другого незнакомца, чтобы выйти замуж до рассвета. Она хотела спорить, требовать ответов, уйти от всей этой безумной ситуации. Вместо этого она сказала: «Хорошо, я согласна». Умница. Виктор достал свой телефон, быстро что-то напечатал. «Дайте мне ваш адрес. Я прибуду туда завтра в 8:30. Одевайтесь красиво, но неформально. Мы влюбленная пара, а не деловые партнеры». Анна продиктовала свой адрес, наблюдая, как он вводит его. Его телефон никогда не освещал его лицо. Яркость была почти полностью приглушена. И когда на экране мелькнуло уведомление, он так быстро отбросил его, что она едва успела его увидеть. Но она увидела достаточно. 3 слова по-русски и значок, похожий на красную звезду. «Нам надо идти», — резко сказал Виктор. Он встал, бросив на стол наличные, намного больше, чем стоили 2 кофе. «Вам нужно отдохнуть. Завтра будет тяжело». Анна последовала за ним на улицу. Дождь стих до мороси. «Виктор?» — спросила она, когда они стояли под навесом кафе. «Да». «Почему вы на самом деле это делаете?» Долгое мгновение он не отвечал. Затем он посмотрел на нее, и на секунду она увидела что-то под тщательным контролем. Не доброту, не тепло, а необходимость. «Потому что прямо сейчас, — тихо сказал он, — мне нужно быть тем, кем я не являюсь, а жена — отличное прикрытие». Прежде чем она успела спросить, что он имел в виду, он исчез, растворившись в ночи, как будто его никогда и не было. Анна стояла одна под моросящим дождем, гадая, на что она только что согласилась. Через дорогу стояла черная машина с работающим двигателем и выключенными фарами. Никто из них ее не заметил, но она была там с момента их входа в кафе и все еще наблюдала. Суд был меньше, чем ожидала Анна. Стерильные белые стены, флуоресцентные лампы и легкий запах чистящего средства для полов. Она 1000 раз представляла свой свадебный день в детстве, но никогда не таким. Виктор приехал ровно в 8:30 в другом костюме, темно-сером, идеально сшитом, с белой рубашкой и без галстука. Он выглядел так, будто направлялся на деловую встречу, а не на свадьбу. «Готовы?» — спросил он. Анна поправила свое синее платье, самое красивое, что у нее было, не считая черного похоронного. Насколько это возможно. Они вошли вместе. Рука Виктора легла на поясницу Анны, теплая и властная. Для тех, кто наблюдал, они выглядели как любая другая пара, собирающаяся официально оформить отношения. Регистратор была женщиной средних лет с очками для чтения на цепочке. Она едва подняла голову, когда они подошли. Свидетельство о браке. Виктор достал документы из пиджака. Анна уставилась. «Когда вы...» «Я подготовил их вчера вечером», — гладко сказал он. «Нет смысла тратить время». Регистратор рассмотрела все с деловой эффективностью. «Свидетели». «У нас 2 ждут», — сказал Виктор, указывая в сторону коридора. Анна повернулась и увидела 2 незнакомых ей людей. Молодая женщина в профессиональном пиджаке и пожилой мужчина в сером костюме. Они вежливо улыбнулись, как будто это было совершенно нормально. «Кто они?» – прошептала Анна. «Коллеги», – сказал Виктор. «Не беспокойтесь об этом». Церемония заняла 7 минут. Они стояли перед судьей, который произносил слова, которые Анна почти не слышала из-за стучащего в груди сердца. Она сказала «да». Когда ее попросили, ее голос был удивительно твердым. «Да» Виктора было спокойным, размеренным, как будто он подтверждал бронирование столика в ресторане. «Можете поцеловать невесту». Глаза Анны расширились. Она не думала об этой части. Виктор приблизился, его рука нежно обхватила ее челюсть с неожиданной мягкостью. «Для вида», — прошептал он так тихо, что только она могла слышать. Затем он поцеловал ее. Это было коротко, сдержанно, идеально подходяще для свадьбы в суде. Но Анна почувствовала это до самых кончиков пальцев, не потому, что это было страстно, а потому, что это было так контролируемо, как будто все, что делал Виктор, было рассчитано на 3 хода вперед. Когда он отстранился, его выражение лица было нечитаемым. Свидетели подписали, бумаги были проштампованы. Регистратор вручила им свидетельство о браке со всем энтузиазмом человека, выписывающего штраф за парковку. «Поздравляю», — сказала она безразлично. И вот так Анна вышла замуж. Они вышли на утреннее солнце. Двое свидетелей исчезли без единого слова, растворившись в отдельных машинах, которые тут же отъехали. «Ваш дом?» — спросил Виктор. «Да. Мне нужно отнести эти бумаги моему адвокату к полудню. Я довезу вас». Его машина была именно такой, какой она ее ожидала. Изящная, черная, дорогая. Немецкая инженерия, которая мурлыкала, а не ревела. В салоне пахло кожей и чем-то еще. Порохом. Нет, это было абсурдно. Анна сначала направила его к офису своего адвоката. Виктор ждал в машине, двигатель работал, глаза постоянно осматривали улицу. Она заметила, что он припарковался лицом к выходу. Внутри ее адвокат, добрый мужчина по имени мистер Паттерсон, который знал ее бабушку, рассмотрел свидетельство о браке с явным облегчением. «Вы успели в последний момент, Анна». «Я знаю, но оно действительно верно. Дом мой, все в порядке. Я подам это немедленно». Он улыбнулся. «Ваша бабушка была бы счастлива, что вы нашли кого-то». Вина скрутила желудок Анны. Бабушка пришла бы в ужас. Вернувшись в машину, Виктор без указаний поехал в ее район. Он, должно быть, посмотрел адрес, запомнил маршрут. «Это он», — сказала Анна, указывая на маленький желтый дом с ивой перед ним. «Дом». Виктор припарковался на улице, изучая дом тем же оценивающим взглядом, каким он смотрел на все остальное. Его глаза следили за линиями обзора, соседними домами, выездами с улиц. «Очаровательно», — сказал он, хотя его тон предполагал, что он думает о чем-то совершенно другом. Они вошли внутрь. Дом Анны был таким же, как она его оставила, завален книгами, слегка пахнущей лавандой, наполненный бабушкиной мебелью и воспоминаниями. Виктор двигался по нему, как будто каталогизировал все. Он проверил окна, проверил замки, осмотрел заднюю дверь. «Что вы делаете?» — спросила Анна. «Убеждаюсь, что он в безопасности. Это тихий район. Здесь никогда ничего не происходит». Виктор повернулся к ней, и впервые она увидела что-то вроде беспокойства в его глазах. Не за себя, за нее. «Вещи меняются», — тихо сказал он. Прежде чем она успела спросить, что он имел в виду, его телефон завибрировал. Он взглянул на него, и все его поведение изменилось. Плечи напряглись, челюсть сжалась. Он быстро что-то напечатал, затем сунул телефон в карман. «Мне нужно позвонить», — сказал он, наедине. Он вышел на ее задний двор, закрыв за собой дверь. Через окно Анна наблюдала, как он расхаживает, прижав телефон к уху. Даже изнутри она видела перемену в нем. Тщательный контроль сменился чем-то более острым, более опасным. Он не говорил по-английски или по-русски. Это было что-то совершенно другое. И кто бы ни был на другом конце провода, он получал приказы, а не предложения. Когда он вернулся через 5 минут, его выражение лица снова было совершенно спокойным. «Все в порядке?» — спросила Анна. Виктор улыбнулся. Улыбка не дошла до глаз. «Идеально», — солгал он. «Теперь, может быть, обсудим спальные места». «Спальные места», — повторила Анна. Виктор обвел рукой маленькую гостиную. «Я останусь сегодня вечером. Завтра вечером тоже, как мы договорились. Где бы вы предпочли, чтобы я спал? Я думала, вы просто уедете после того, как мы закончим с адвокатом». И я объяснил, почему это не сработает. Виктор с намеренной точностью положил ключи на кофейный столик. 48 часов, Анна. Это была сделка. Она согласилась на это. Но его присутствие в доме ее бабушки казалось ей приглашением волка в кукольный домик. «Гостевая комната», — сказала она наконец. «Наверху, первая дверь налево. Постельное белье чистое». «Спасибо». Он не двинулся к лестнице. Вместо этого он подошел к окну, слегка поправив занавеску. «У вас есть охранная система?» «Засов. Это не охранная система. Это тихий район, Виктор. Самое захватывающее, что здесь происходит, это кот миссис Чен, застрявший на деревьях». Он повернулся, чтобы посмотреть на нее, и что-то в его выражении лица заставило ее затаить дыхание. Он не был раздосадован. Он оценивал угрозы в месте, где самой большой опасностью было просроченное молоко. «Развлеките меня», — сказал он. «Сегодня вечером держите шторы закрытыми. Заприте все двери и окна. Никому не открывайте дверь». «Вы параноик. Я осторожен. Есть разница». Прежде чем Анна успела возразить, Зазвонил ее телефон. Ее адвокат. «Все оформлено», — весело сказал мистер Паттерсон. «Дом официально ваш. Еще раз поздравляю, моя дорогая». Облегчение охватило ее. Это было сделано. Дом был в безопасности. Когда она повесила трубку, Виктор смотрел на нее. «Хорошие новости?» — спросил он. «Лучшие. Все закончилось. Дом мой». Она улыбнулась, возможно, впервые за несколько месяцев. «Спасибо. Правда. Я знаю, что это было странно, но не благодарите меня пока». То, как он это сказал, заставило ее улыбку угаснуть. Что это значит? Это значит, что следующие 48 часов важны так же, как и подпись. Он проверил часы. «У меня есть дела, которыми нужно заняться сегодня днем. Я вернусь к 6. Не выходите из дома. Простите? Только на сегодня. Завтра вы сможете свободно передвигаться. Виктор, вы не можете просто... 6 часов, Анна». Он взял свои ключи. «Держите двери запертыми». Затем он ушел. Дверь захлопнулась за ним. Анна стояла в своей гостиной, одновременно облегченная и обеспокоенная. Дом был ее. Это все, что имело значение. Виктор уйдет через 2 дня, и жизнь вернется в нормальное русло. Она провела день, пытаясь убедить себя в этом. Около 4 часов она заварила чай и села у окна, наблюдая за районом. Миссис Чин гуляла со своей собакой. Почтальон совершал свои обходы. 2 детей катались на велосипедах по тротуару. Нормально. Все было нормально. Затем она заметила машину. Черный седан с тонированными стеклами, припаркованный в 3 домах. Он был там, когда Виктор ушел. Она помнила, потому что видела, как он уезжал. Через 2 часа он все еще был там. Двигатель выключен. Никто не садился и не выходил. Просто стоял. Анна сказала себе, что она смешна. Вероятно, это был кто-то, кто навещал соседа или кто-то разговаривал по телефону. Машины постоянно парковались на улицах. Но предупреждение Виктора эхом отдавалось в ее голове. «Держите двери запертыми». В 5:30 двигатель седана завелся. Сердце Анны забилось быстрее. Машина медленно покатилась вперед, проезжая мимо ее дома ползком. Окна были слишком темными, чтобы что-либо увидеть внутри, но она чувствовала это. Тяжесть наблюдения. Она доехала до конца улицы, развернулась и вернулась еще медленнее. На этот раз она остановилась прямо напротив ее дома. Анна отошла от окна. Пульс колотился. Она схватила телефон. Should she call the police and say what? A car was parked legally on a public street. The sedan sat there for 3 minutes. 3 minutes that felt like hours. Then it drove away. Hannah released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. At exactly 6 Guam, Victor's car pulled into her driveway. She yanked the door open before he could knock. There was a car. It was watching the house. Victor's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened. What kind of car? Black sedan, tinted windows. It drove by twice, then parked in front for a few minutes. Did you see the license plate? No, I didn't think to look. Victor stepped inside immediately, checking the windows. It's gone now. Yes, maybe 15 minutes ago. He pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. Describe it again, every detail. As she talked, Victor's jaw tightened incrementally. When she finished, he made a call. South side, he said in that other language. 20-minute perimeter. Report anything. He hung up. Victor, what's going on? Probably nothing. That didn't sound like nothing. He turned to face her fully, and for the first time she saw something like regret in his eyes. I was hoping we'd have more time, he said quietly. Time for what? Before they found me. Before who found you? Hannah's voice came out higher than she intended. Victor moved to the window again, his movements economical, precise. People I've been avoiding. What people? Victor, you need to tell me. No, I don't. He pulled the curtain shut with finality. That was the first rule, remember? No questions. That was before strange cars started watching my house, which is why you should pack a bag. Just essentials. We may need to leave quickly. Hannah's stomach dropped. Leave. I just got this house. I'm not leaving. Victor turned to face her, and the expression on his face was colder than she'd seen before. Not cruel, but absolutely resolute. The house means nothing if you're not alive to live in it. Stop being dramatic. It was probably just someone lost, or it wasn't. The certainty in his voice silenced her. They stood in her grandmother's living room, surrounded by doilies and photo frames and the life Hannah had been so desperate to preserve. And suddenly it all felt fragile, like something that could shatter with one wrong move. "I'll make dinner," Hannah said finally because she didn't know what else to do. Victor nodded. "I'll be upstairs." She watched him climb to the guest room, moving with that same quiet efficiency. Everything he did was controlled, measured. Even the way he closed the door was silent. Hannah stood alone in her kitchen, hands shaking as she pulled out pasta and sauce. She'd married a stranger who spoke multiple languages, had people watching her house, and carried himself like violence was a language he was fluent in. What have I done? Upstairs, she heard footsteps, then nothing. She cooked in silence, the familiar routine not nearly as comforting as it should be. When dinner was ready, she climbed the stairs and knocked on the guest room door. "Come." Victor sat on the bed, jacket off, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. His phone was in his hand, but he set it down immediately. Face down, always face down. For the first time, Hannah noticed the scars, thin white lines across his forearms. Old burns, maybe, or cuts. "Dinner's ready," she said. "I'm not hungry." "You need to eat, Hannah. It's pasta. Nothing fancy, but you're my house and I cooked, so you're eating." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. Like he wasn't used to people telling him what to do. He followed her downstairs. They ate in awkward silence. Victor took measured bites, his attention constantly drifting to the windows, the door, his phone on the table beside him. "Do you ever relax?" Hannah asked. "No, that's sad. It's survival." She set down her fork. "Victor, I need you to tell me something, anything, because right now I'm sitting in my house with a man I married this morning, and I don't even know if that's your real name." He studied her for a long moment. Then surprisingly he answered, "It's my real name, Victor Konstantin Volov." He took another bite. "And before you ask, yes, I'm Russian, naturalized here 15 years ago." "What do you do?" "Really? I told you import. Export of what?" Victor's jaw tightened. "Things people need, things other people don't want them to have. I facilitate transactions between parties who can't meet in the open." "That's incredibly vague. It's meant to be." "Are you a criminal?" "That depends entirely on which country's laws you're applying." Hannah's appetite vanished. "So that's a yes. I prefer to think of myself as a businessman operating in gray markets." He met her eyes. "I don't hurt innocent people, Hannah. I don't deal in anything that harms children. But I'm not a good man. Don't confuse necessity with morality." The honesty was somehow worse than a lie would have been. "And the car outside competitors or enemies?" The line blurs. He pushed his plate away. "I've been restructuring my operations. Some people aren't happy about it. They're looking for leverage. Leverage like a wife." "Yes," Hannah's laugh was bitter. "So I went from losing my house to becoming a target. Great trade. I didn't know they'd find me this quickly, but you knew they were looking." Victor didn't deny it. Hannah stood, gathering plates with shaking hands. "You should have told me. Would you have agreed if I had?" "No, exactly." He stood as well, and suddenly the small kitchen felt smaller. "I gave you a choice, Hannah. 48 hours. That deadline still stands. After that, you're free. If I survive that long, you will. I promise you that." The conviction in his voice should have been comforting. Instead, it terrified her because men like Victor didn't make promises lightly, which meant he expected the next 2 days to be dangerous enough that his promise mattered. That night, Hannah lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Around midnight, she heard it. Footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate. Victor, pacing. At 2 a.m., his phone rang and she heard his voice through the wall, sharp and commanding in Russian. At 400 a.m., she crept to her door and peered out. Victor sat at the top of the stairs, silhouetted by moonlight, a gun resting on his knee. Hannah closed her door silently and didn't sleep at all. Morning came with false brightness. Sunlight streamed through Hannah's curtains like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't spent the night listening to her husband pace with a gun. Her husband, the word felt absurd. She found Victor in the kitchen, looking like he'd slept perfectly, suit pressed, hair neat, no shadows under his eyes. Only the coffee pot, already empty, suggested he'd been awake for hours. "We need groceries," Hannah said, because normally felt like the only weapon she had left. Victor looked up from his phone. No, I have eggs and half a loaf of bread. Unless you plan to survive on coffee, make a list. I'll have them delivered. Victor, I've lived in this neighborhood for 28 years. I'm not going to hide in my own house because of one suspicious car. Something shifted in his expression. Not anger, calculation. He was weighing options, risks, outcomes. Fine, he said finally, but I'm coming with you. It's a grocery store, not a war zone. He didn't answer. He just grabbed his jacket. The market was a 10-minute walk. Hannah had made this trip hundreds of times. Past Mrs. Chen's house with its garden gnomes, past the park where she'd learned to ride a bike, past the corner where the ice cream truck always stopped in summer. Victor walked beside her, hands in his pockets, eyes constantly moving. He tracked every car, every person, every open window. You're going to give yourself a heart attack, Hannah said, better than the alternative. Inside the market, Hannah tried to shop normally. Vegetables, bread, coffee, the ingredients for her grandmother's stew recipe. Victor stayed close, too close like a shadow she couldn't shake. She was reaching for tomatoes when she noticed him stiffen. What? She whispered. Don't turn around. Man in the gray jacket threw back. He's been following us since produce. Hannah's hand froze on a tomato. Maybe he's just shopping. He's not shopping. He hasn't picked up a single item. Her pulse quickened. What do we do? Keep shopping. Act natural. Victor's hand moved to the small of her back, gentle but steering. We're going to the checkout. Stay close to me. They moved through the store with forced casualness. Hannah grabbed items at random. Cereal she didn't need, milk she already had just to look normal. At the checkout, she dared to glance back. Gray jacket, mid-30s, stocky build, watching them with undisguised interest. When he saw her looking, he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Victor, I see him. Victor paid cash, precise bills, no waiting for change. Walk normally. Don't run outside. The sunny morning felt too bright, too exposed. Hannah clutched the grocery bags like they could protect her. They made it half a block before Gray Jacket emerged from the store. He wasn't alone anymore. Two other men flanked him, appearing from a car parked across the street. Victor, Hannah breathed. Keep walking. They're getting closer. I know. The men were 20 feet behind, then 15. Their footsteps echoed on the sidewalk. Too loud, too deliberate. Victor's hand tightened on Hannah's arm. When I say run, you run straight home. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. What are you going to, Vol? The shout came from behind them. Russian accent, thick and mocking. We just want to talk. Victor stopped walking. Everything in Hannah's body screamed to run, but Victor's grip kept her in place. Stay behind me, he said quietly, then louder in Russian. Talk then. Gray Jacket laughed, answering in the same language. Hannah didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone, threatening, confident, amused. Victor's response was colder than ice. The man's smile faded. He said something else sharper. Victor's answer was a single word. Gray Jacket's hand moved toward his jacket. What happened next took 3 seconds. Victor moved with terrifying speed. He grabbed Hannah's grocery bags and threw them at the nearest man, then stepped forward, not back, forward, closing the distance before Gray Jacket could draw whatever weapon he was reaching for. There was no dramatic fight, no movie choreography. Victor's hand caught the man's wrist, twisted it at an angle that made Hannah's stomach turn. The man gasped in pain. Victor leaned in, whispered something that drained all color from Gray Jacket's face, then released him with a sharp push. The man stumbled back, cradling his wrist. His companions tensed, but Gray Jacket barked something in Russian, a command, and they backed away. Victor didn't move. He stood perfectly still, watching until all 3 men retreated to their car and drove away. Only then did he turn back to Hannah. She was shaking. Are you hurt? He asked. No, What just happened? Victor picked up the scattered groceries with mechanical efficiency. A conversation. That wasn't a conversation. Yes, it was, just in a language you didn't understand. He handed her the bags, his expression unreadable. We need to go now. They walked back in silence. Hannah's legs felt like water. When they reached her house, Victor didn't go inside immediately. He circled the building first, checking windows, scanning the street. Finally, he unlocked the door and ushered her inside. Hannah set down the groceries with trembling hands. You need to tell me what's happening right now. Victor locked the deadbolt, both locks, then he turned to face her. You want the truth? Yes. The truth is you're married to someone very dangerous people want dead. And now they know you exist. Hannah backed up until she hit the kitchen counter. Dead. Yes. Victor's tone was matter of fact, like he was discussing the weather. I've made enemies, powerful ones. They've been looking for me for 6 months. 6 months. What did you do? I took something that belonged to them. Or rather, I took something they believed belonged to them. He moved to the window, checked the street, an organization, resources, territory. I didn't ask permission. You stole from criminals. I liberated assets from people who were using them incorrectly. Victor turned back to her. The previous leadership was inefficient, brutal. They dealt in things I won't touch. So I removed them. Hannah's mind reeled. Removed them? You mean I mean exactly what you think I mean? The casual way. He said it made her stomach turn. You're a murderer. I'm a lot of things. As Victor crossed his arms, leaning against the wall with infuriating calm. Murder is one of them. So is protector, revolutionary businessman husband as of yesterday. Don't make jokes. I'm not joking. His eyes met hers and there was no amusement there, only cold honesty. I run an organization built on fear and loyalty. We operate in shadows. We move money, information, and occasionally people. We don't deal drugs to kids or traffic human beings, but we're not legal, and we're definitely not safe. Why are you telling me this now? Because you asked. And because after this morning, you deserve to know exactly who you're standing next to. Hannah gripped the counter behind her. Those men, they work for the people you took everything from. What's left of them? Yes, the organization fractured after I took control. Some followed me, others scattered. A few are trying to rebuild what I destroyed. He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo, gray jacket from the market, Dmitry Klov, low-level enforcer. The fact that they sent him means they're getting desperate. What did you say to him at the end? Victor's expression darkened. I told him if he came near you again, I'd make sure his family received his body in pieces. The words hung in the air like smoke. That's horrible, Hannah whispered. That's survival. They need to believe I'll do it, because if they think I'm bluffing, they'll come back with more men and fewer warnings. Is this what the next 48 hours looks like? Threats and violence? If we're lucky, yes. If we're unlucky, Victor trailed off, then seemed to decide honesty was the only option. If we're unlucky, they'll try to take you. Use you as leverage to draw me out or hurt you to hurt me. Hannah's knees went weak. She slid down to sit on the kitchen floor. Victor crouched in front of her, not touching, just present. I need you to understand something, Hannah. The moment you stopped me on that street, the moment we signed those papers, you became part of my world, whether either of us wanted it or not. They know about you now. They'll use that. So what am I supposed to do? Just wait here to be kidnapped? No, you're going to survive. He said it with absolute certainty. Because I'm going to make sure of it. But you need to listen to me. When I tell you to move, you move. When I tell you to hide, you hide. When I tell you to run, I run. I know. Hannah laughed bitterly. God, I just wanted to save my grandmother's house. And you did. At what cost? Victor was quiet for a moment. Then after 48 hours, you can walk away. I'll make sure they know you mean nothing to me, that you were a convenience, nothing more. Once they believe that, you will be safe. Will they believe it? They will if I'm convincing enough. His jaw tightened, and I can be very convincing. Hannah looked at him, this stranger she'd married, this dangerous man who'd somehow become her only lifeline. What if I don't survive the next 48 hours? You will. You can't promise that. Victor's hand moved then, just slightly, resting on the floor near hers, not touching, but close. An anchor? Yes, he said quietly. I can because I've survived worse with less, and I won't let them take you. That's not a promise, Hannah. That's a fact. The conviction in his voice should have terrified her. Instead, it was the first thing that had felt solid all day. Okay, she said finally. Okay, what do we do now? Victor stood, offering her his hand. Now we leave. What? No, you said 48 hours. That was before they found this address. The house isn't safe anymore. He pulled her to her feet. Pack essentials, 5 minutes. We're going somewhere they can't track. Victor, 5 minutes. Hannah, starting now. His phone rang. He answered in Russian and listened. Then his expression went completely cold. When he hung up, he looked at her with something like regret. Change of plans. He said, we have 3 minutes. Pack now or leave with nothing. Outside, an engine rumbled to life down the street. The hunters had found them again. Hannah didn't argue. The look on Victor's face killed any protest before it could form. She ran upstairs, grabbed her grandmother's old travel bag, and threw in whatever she could reach. Clothes, phone charger, her grandmother's wedding ring from the nightstand. Her hands shook so badly, she dropped her toothbrush twice. 2 minutes downstairs. She heard Victor moving with purpose. Drawers opening, something heavy being moved. When she came back down, he had a black duffel bag she'd never seen before. Where had that come from? Had he brought it this morning? Ready? He asked. No, but does it matter? Not really. He moved to the back door. We're going through the yard. There's a car waiting 2 streets over. How? I made arrangements this morning just in case he opened the door. Scan the backyard. Stay close. Don't stop for anything. They moved through her grandmother's garden, past the tomato plants Hannah had planted in spring, over the fence she had helped her grandfather build when she was 12. Everything familiar now felt like a trap. The neighboring yard belonged to Mr. Patterson. Different Patterson, no relation to her lawyer, elderly, mostly deaf, usually asleep by 9. His yard was overgrown, easy to hide in. Victor moved through it like a ghost. Hannah crashed behind him like a burglar, every snapped twig making her flinch. They reached the street. A gray sedan sat at the corner, engine running. Not Victor's car from this morning, something older, more forgettable. A woman sat in the driver's seat, young, blonde, professional. Look. She nodded at Victor without speaking. Get in back, Victor told Hannah. She obeyed. Victor slid in beside her and the car was moving before his door fully closed. Clear, Victor asked in English. 2 cars circling your wife's neighborhood, the woman answered. Eastern European accent, though lighter than Victor's. They haven't breached the perimeter yet. We have maybe 10 minutes before they realize you're gone. Route, industrial district, Upper Ray, then the safe house on 7th. Clean approach. 2 backup routes if we're followed, Victor nodded. Only then did he look at Hannah. This is Kadia. She works for me. Kadia glanced in the rearview mirror, her eyes sharp and assessing. Mrs. Vulov, the name sounded wrong, like a costume that didn't fit. Just Hannah, she managed. As you wish. Kadia took a sharp turn, then another. Her driving was smooth but purposeful, each move calculated. They drove in silence through neighborhoods Hannah barely recognized. The city looked different when you were running from something. Streets became corridors. Intersections became choke points. How many people work for you? Hannah asked Victor. Enough. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Kadia spoke in Russian. Victor answered sharply, his tone leaving no room for argument. They crossed into the industrial district, warehouses and shipping facilities, most closed for the evening. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of amber and shadow. The safe house was a 3rd-floor apartment above a closed electronics repair shop. Kadia parked in an alley, scanned the street, then nodded. Clear for now. I'll maintain watch. Victor led Hannah up a narrow staircase, unlocking 3 separate locks on a reinforced door. Inside, the apartment was sparse. Functional furniture, blackout curtains, nothing personal. Home sweet home, Hannah muttered. Victor locked the door behind them. It's secure. That's all that matters. For how long? Long enough, he set his duffel bag on the table, unzipped it. Hannah's breath caught. Inside was enough firepower to start a small war. 2 handguns, something larger that might have been an automatic rifle, ammunition, and other things she couldn't identify. Jesus Vitor precautions. He removed 1 handgun, checked it with practiced efficiency. There's food in kitchen, bathroom works, bedrooms through there. You should rest. Rest? Are you insane? Possibly. He set the gun within easy reach. But I'm also realistic. We'll be here at least tonight, possibly tomorrow. You need sleep. I need answers. I need to know what the hell is happening. Victor's expression hardened. What's happening is that men who want me dead now know I have a wife. What's happening is they'll use any leverage they can find. What's happening is I'm keeping you alive while I clean up a mess that should have been contained weeks ago. I clean up, you mean? I mean exactly what you think I mean. Hannah sank onto the couch. How is this my life now? Victor's phone buzzed. He read the message and something in his expression shifted. Not fear, focus. I need to make calls, private ones. He moved toward the bedroom, then paused. Don't answer the door. Don't go near the windows. Don't call anyone. I'm a prisoner. You're protected. There's a difference. He disappeared into the bedroom, closing the door. Hannah sat alone in the safe house, surrounded by weapons and shadows, trying to process how 24 hours ago her biggest problem was a house. Through the bedroom door, she heard Victor's voice, cold, commanding, speaking in Russian with the tone of someone giving orders that would have consequences. She caught one phrase she'd heard before, heard it in movies, read it in books. Two words that chilled her blood. A brat yego. Remove him. Not remove like relocate. Remove like erase. Hannah pulled her knees to her chest and finally let herself admit the truth. She hadn't married a man. She'd married a monster. And the worst part, he was the only thing standing between her and worse monsters. Hannah didn't sleep. She lay on the stiff couch listening to Victor's voice through the bedroom door. He spoke for hours, sometimes commanding, sometimes negotiating. Once in a tone so cold it made the apartment feel 10 degrees colder. Around 3 o'clock a.m., silence finally fell. She must have dozed off eventually because when she opened her eyes, gray dawn light filtered through gaps in the blackout curtains. Victor stood at the window, a thin sliver of curtain pulled aside. He changed clothes, black shirt, dark pants, but looked like he hadn't slept at all. How long have you been standing there? Hannah asked. Few hours. He didn't turn around. Katia reported in. No movement overnight. They're regrouping. That's good, right? It means they're planning something bigger. He let the curtain fall. Get up. We need to talk. Hannah sat up, her neck aching from the couch. About what? Victor pulled a chair from the small dining table, positioned it facing her. He sat, elbows on knees, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked tired. The 48 hours are almost up, he said. Hannah blinked. Had it really been 2 days? Time had blurred into a mess of fear and adrenaline already. By this afternoon, our agreement ends. Victor leaned back, which means you have a choice to make. What choice? Stay married to me or don't? The bluntness of it caught her off guard. What? If you stay, you'll be protected. I have resources, safe houses, people loyal to me. You'll never want for money or security. His eyes met hers. But you'll also be a target. For as long as you're my wife, you will be leverage. And my enemies are creative about how they use leverage. Hannah's mouth went dry. If you leave, Victor continued, I'll make it known that you were a convenience, a paper marriage, nothing more. I'll be convincing enough that they'll believe it. You'll go back to your life, your house, your normal world. You'll be safe. Will I? Hannah challenged. They've seen me. They know who I am. They'll lose interest once they believe you're worthless to me. It might take a few weeks, but they will. He said it with such certainty. I'll have people watching you from a distance just to be sure. But you'll be free. It sounded perfect, exactly what she'd wanted when this insanity started. So why did her chest feel tight? What do you want me to choose? She asked. Victor's expression didn't change. What I want doesn't matter. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. He stood, walked to the window again. I'm not a good man, you know that now. I've killed people. I'll kill more. I live in a world where trust is currency and weakness is death. That's not a life I'd wish on anyone, but you deserve the truth before you decide. He turned to face her. If you stay, I won't pretend to be something I'm not. I won't change who I am or what I do, but I will protect you with everything I have. Why? The question burst out before Hannah could stop it. Why do you care? I'm just some desperate stranger who stopped you on a street. Victor was quiet for a long moment. Because he said, finally in 2 days you've never once tried to use me. You've been terrified, angry, confused, all reasonable responses. But you haven't asked for money beyond our original deal. Haven't tried to manipulate the situation to your advantage. Haven't pretended to be something you're not. He crossed his arms. That's rare in my world. People always want something, but you just wanted your grandmother's house. That's refreshing. That's a terrible reason to keep someone in your life. Probably something that might have been a smile flickered across his face. But I stopped making good decisions about 6 months ago. When I started a war I might not win. Hannah stood, moved to the window beside him. Through the gap in the curtains, she could see the industrial district waking up. Delivery trucks, early workers, normal people with normal problems. If I stay, she said slowly, what would that actually look like? Honestly, I don't know. Victor's voice was quieter now. I've never had a real wife before. The marriage would be legitimate. You'd have access to everything I have, but you'd also live with the constant knowledge that danger could come through the door any moment. Sounds exhausting. It is. Hannah watched a pigeon land on the building across the street. Such a small, normal thing. Can I ask you something? Yes. Last night on the phone, you ordered someone killed, didn't you? Victor didn't hesitate. Yes. Who? Someone who needed to be removed from the equation. Someone who would have come for you eventually if I'd left him alive. The casualness of it should have horrified her. Maybe it did. But there was something else too, something she didn't want to examine too closely. Relief. I need to think, Hannah said. You have until noon. Victor checked his watch. After that, I need to move regardless, either with you or without you. He walked to the bedroom, paused at the door. For what it's worth, he said without turning around, I hope you choose to leave. You deserve better than this. Then he was gone, door closing softly behind him. Hannah stood at the window, watching the world wake up, trying to decide between the safety of lies and the danger of truth. She had 4 hours to choose. Hannah was still at the window when the world exploded. Not literally, though. The sound that shattered the morning quiet made her think otherwise. Car doors slamming, shouting in Russian, footsteps pounding up the stairwell. Victor appeared from the bedroom instantly, gun already in hand. Get down. Hannah dropped to the floor as the apartment door shuddered with impact. Someone was trying to break through. The locks will hold, Victor said, moving with terrifying calm. Kadia report. He had an earpiece in. When had he put that in? His expression darkened at whatever response he received. How many? Pause. Understood. Defensive positions. Another impact on the door. The frame cracked. Victor. Bedroom. Now there's a closet with a false back. Get inside and don't come out until I get you. What about you? I'll be fine. Move. Hannah ran. The bedroom was sparse, just a bed and the closet Victor mentioned. She yanked it open, shoving aside empty hangers until she found the panel in the back. It swung inward, revealing a crawl space barely big enough for one person. She squeezed inside, pulling the panel closed just as the apartment door finally gave way. Through the thin wall, she heard everything. Boots on hardwood, Victor's voice, cold and commanding in Russian. Other voices responding, at least 3, maybe 4. Then gunfire. Hannah pressed her hands over her ears, but it didn't help. The sound was deafening even through walls and closet panels. Sharp cracks that made her whole body flinch. It lasted maybe 20 seconds. Felt like hours. Then silence. Footsteps. Someone moving through the apartment. Hannah held her breath, pressing herself into the corner of the crawl space. The bedroom door opened. Clear. Victor's voice. Kadia status. A pause. Copy. I'm bringing her down. The closet opened. Light flooded in. Victor stood there. Not a scratch on him, though. His shirt had blood spatter across the shoulder. Not his blood. Come on, we need to move fast. Hannah let him pull her out. What happened? Later. Can you run? Yes, then run. He led her through the apartment. Hannah tried not to look at the bodies, but she saw enough. 3 men sprawled in positions that suggested they died quickly. Professionally, Kadia was in the stairwell, her own gun drawn. 2 more outside. They're contained, but we have maybe 3 minutes before police arrive. The car ready, east exit. They descended the stairs at a run. Hannah's heart hammered, so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Outside, the gray sedan was running, but Kadia led them past it to a different vehicle, A black SUV with tinted windows. Change of plans, Kadia said. They knew about the sedan. That stopped Victor. How? Someone talked. I'll handle it later. Victor's jaw clenched, but he pushed Hannah into the back seat and climbed in after her. Kadia took the wheel and they were moving before Hannah could process what had just happened. They drove in tense silence. Kadia took random turns, doubled back twice, clearly checking for tails. Are they following us? Hannah asked. Not anymore, Victor said quietly. What does that mean? He didn't answer. He was typing rapidly on his phone, messages firing off one after another. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Kadia spoke. We're clear. Where are we going? Hannah asked. Somewhere they won't think to look, Victor said. He made a call, spoke in rapid Russian, then hung up. His expression was darker than Hannah had ever seen it. What is it? She asked. They took one of my people, used him to find the safe house location. Victor's voice was ice. He's young, inexperienced. They exploited that is he? He'll be dealt with after I deal with the people who orchestrated this. The way he said dealt with made Hannah's stomach turn. How many were there? She asked. 7 total. 3 made it into the building for stayed outside as backup. Victor looked out the window. It was a statement move, not meant to succeed, meant to send a message. What message? That they can reach me anywhere, that nowhere is safe. He turned to face her. They were supposed to take you, Hannah, not kill me. Take you. The realization hit like ice water. They wanted to use me. Yes, to draw me out, to make me careless. His hand curled into a fist. That ends today. What are you going to do? Victor's eyes were colder than she'd ever seen them. I'm going to remind everyone why they were afraid of me in the first place. Kadia pulled into an underground parking garage. The SUV descended 3 levels before stopping in a corner far from any cameras. We stay here until dark, Victor said. Then I end this. And what? He looked at her, and for the first time, Anna saw the man beneath the control. The one who'd started a war and intended to finish it. The people hunting us. I know where they're hiding. He checked his gun, reloaded with mechanical precision. By tomorrow morning, they won't be a problem anymore. You're going to kill them all. Yes, no hesitation, no apology. Hannah should have been horrified, should have demanded he let her go right then. Instead, she heard herself say, be careful. Victor's expression softened just fractionally. I will. And somehow she believed him. Victor left at midnight. He didn't say goodbye, just checked his weapons one final time, exchanged a few words with Kadia in Russian, and disappeared into the darkness of the parking garage. Hannah sat in the SUV's back seat, Kadia silent in the driver's seat, and waited. The hours crawled. Kadia remained alert, occasionally checking her phone but offering no conversation. Around 3:00 a.m., her phone buzzed. She read the message, nodded to herself. What is it? Hannah asked. It's handled. What's handled? Kadia met her eyes in the rearview mirror. You should try to sleep, Mrs. Volov. I can't sleep. Not while he's out there doing whatever he's doing. He's doing what he does best, surviving. You've worked for him long? Hannah asked. Kadia was quiet for a moment. For years. He saved my brother's life. I owe him everything. He seems to collect people like that. People who owe him. He collects people he trusts. That's different. Kadia turned to her seat. You want to know if he's a good man? I can't answer that, but I can tell you he's fair. And in this world, fairness is rarer than kindness. Before Hannah could respond, Kadia's phone rang. She answered, listened, then handed it back to Hannah. He wants to talk to you. Hannah took the phone with shaking hands. Victor, it's done. His voice sounded tired. No one will be coming for you now. Are you okay? A pause. Define. Okay. Are you hurt? Nothing serious. I'll be back by dawn. Kadia will keep you safe until then. Victor, I need you to listen carefully, Hannah. What I did tonight, there's no coming back from it. I eliminated a threat, but I also made a statement. For the next few weeks, maybe months, my world will be unstable, dangerous. He took a breath, which is why I'm giving you an out. Hannah's chest tightened. What? When I get back, I'll have divorce papers. Clean, simple, dated before any of this happened. You sign them, you walk away. I'll make sure everyone knows you were nothing but a convenience. You'll be safe, and if I don't sign them, the silence stretched so long Hannah thought the connection had dropped. Then you stay, Victor said finally, and you accept everything that comes with it. I haven't decided yet, I know, but our 48 hours are up at noon today. Whatever you choose, choose with full knowledge of what I am. His voice softened slightly. I'll see you at dawn. The line went dead. Hannah handed the phone back to Kadia and stared out at the concrete pillars of the parking garage. Dawn came with gray light filtering down from the garage levels above. Victor appeared like a ghost, emerging from the shadows with dried blood on his sleeve and exhaustion carved into his face. Kadia got out, spoke with him quietly. He nodded, then opened the back door where Hannah sat. Let's go, he said. They drove to a different apartment, nicer than the safe house in a building that looked almost normal. Victor led her inside to a space that was clean, furnished, anonymous. This is secure, he said. You can stay here as long as you need. He set a manila envelope on the kitchen counter. Divorce papers. Hannah stared at them like they might bite. I signed my half already, Victor said. You sign yours and it's done, like the last 3 days never happened. Except they did happen, yes. But you can choose to walk away from what they mean. Hannah moved to the counter, pulled out the papers. They were thorough, professional. Dissolution of marriage. No fault, clean break. She'd get nothing from him, he'd get nothing from her, like they'd never existed to each other. You really think I can just go back to normal? She asked. Eventually, Victor leaned against the wall, arms crossed. It won't be easy, but you'll survive. You're stronger than you think, says the man who's seen me terrified for 3 days straight. Terrified and surviving are not mutually exclusive. Hannah looked at the papers, then at Victor, really looked at him, the blood on his sleeve, the exhaustion in his eyes, the way he held himself like he was carrying the weight of a world she'd only glimpsed. What happens if I don't sign? She asked. Then you're my wife, legally, publicly, permanently. Victor's expression was unreadable, and everyone in my world will know it, including my enemies. There will be more enemies. Always. More nights like last night. Probably. More running, more hiding, more violence. Yes. Hannah picked up the pen sitting next to the papers. Victor's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Resignation, maybe, or acceptance. She held the pen over the signature line, and then she set it down. I'm not signing, she said. Victor straightened. Hannah, I'm not signing because you're right. I deserve to make this choice with full knowledge of what it means. She turned to face him. And I choose to stay. You don't know what you're choosing. Yes, I do. I'm choosing the man who kept me safe when he had every reason not to. Who gave me the option to leave when it would have been easier to keep me trapped? Who's honest about being a monster instead of pretending to be a saint? She stepped closer. I'm not saying I'm okay with everything you do. I'm not saying I'll ever be comfortable with the violence, but I'm saying I choose to stand beside you anyway. Victor stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. You're insane, he said finally. Probably Hannah smiled and meant it. Seems like I fit right in. Victor didn't move for a long moment, just stood there, studying her like he was searching for the crack in her resolve, the moment she'd realize her mistake. You're serious, he said finally, completely. This isn't a romance novel, Hannah. There's no happily ever after here. Just survival in the hope that tomorrow doesn't bring something worse than today. I know you'll live in constant danger. I know you'll be married to a man who's killed people and will kill again. Victor Hannah cut him off. I know all of it, and I'm still choosing this. He ran a hand through his hair, a crack in his usual composure. Why? Because for the first time in months, I feel alive. The words surprised even her. But once they were out, she knew they were true. Since my grandmother died, I've been going through the motions, working, sleeping, trying to hold on to a house because it was the only thing that felt real. But these last 3 days, terrifying as they've been, I've felt something. She moved closer, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. And because you gave me a choice, really gave me one. You could have lied, manipulated, or forced me to stay. But you handed me divorce papers and told me to save myself. She touched the envelope on the counter. That's not what monsters do. You'd be surprised what monsters are capable of when it suits them. Maybe, but I don't think that's what this was. Victor's jaw tightened. You think you know me after 3 days? No, but I know myself, and I know I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering what if. She held his gaze. I'm not asking you to change, Victor. I'm not asking you to be someone you're not. I'm just asking you to let me choose this, choose you, choose us. The silence stretched between them, heavy with possibility. Then Victor did something unexpected. He laughed. Not a lot, just a short, sharp sound that might have been disbelief or surrender. You're absolutely insane, he said again. But this time it sounded almost. So you've mentioned my world will eat you alive. Then teach me how to survive it. Victor shook his head, but she saw it. The moment his resistance crumbled, the moment he stopped fighting what she was offering. Rules, he said finally. If we're doing this, we do it my way. What rules? First, you learn to defend yourself. Gun training, hand-to-hand, situational awareness. You're not going to be a liability. Agree. Second, when I say something's dangerous, you listen. No arguments? No. I've survived this long because I trust my instincts. Reasonable. Third, you keep your identity separate from mine as much as possible. Your friends, your life, your work, they stay clean. If something happens to me, you need to be able to walk away. Hannah frowned. That sounds like you're already planning to leave. I'm planning for contingencies. That's different. Victor's expression softened slightly. I won't always be able to protect you, Hannah, but I can make sure you're able to protect yourself. She nodded. What else? That's it. 3 rules. Everything else we figure out as we go. Seems simple. It won't be, but simple rules are easier to follow when everything else is chaos. Victor pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then pocketed it again. What was that? Hannah asked. Letting my people know the situation has changed, that you're not a temporary arrangement anymore. His eyes met hers, that you're permanent. The words settled over her like a blanket, warm and terrifying all at once. So what happens now? She asked. Now? Victor glanced at his watch. Now we disappear for a while. I have a place outside the city, quiet, secure, far from anyone who might cause problems. We'll go there until things settle. And then we come back. We build something that looks normal on the surface. You keep your house, your life. I keep my organization, and we figure out how to exist in both worlds without destroying each other. Hannah smiled. That's ambitious. I don't do anything halfway. Victor moved to the window. Check the street below, out of habit. We leave in an hour. Pack what you need. Victor, he turned. Thank you for giving me the choice. Something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, but close. Thank you for being brave enough to make it. He crossed the room and, for the first time since she'd met him, he touched her without calculation. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek, and his eyes held something she hadn't seen before. Not love. They weren't there yet, but possibility. I can't promise you safety, he said quietly. I can't promise you peace, but I can promise you I will always be honest, and I will always give you the choice to leave. And if I never want to leave, then I suppose we'll figure this out together. He kissed her then. Not like at the courthouse, not for show or appearances. This kiss was real, tentative, like they were both learning a new language. When he pulled back, Hannah was breathless. 1 hour, he said again. Then we start over, both of us. Hannah watched him move to make more calls, coordinating their escape with the same efficiency he'd used to eliminate his enemies. She should have been terrified, should have signed those papers and run. But as she looked at the divorce documents still sitting on the counter and signed unwanted, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Not for a fairy tale, not for a perfect life, but for something real, something chosen, something worth fighting for. Victor glanced back at her, caught her watching, and something like a real smile crossed his face. What? He asked. Nothing, Hannah said, just thinking about how I stopped a stranger on a rainy street and accidentally married a mafia boss. And I'd do it again. Victor's laugh was genuine this time. You really are insane. Good thing you like insane. I'm starting to. They left an hour later, driving toward a future neither of them could predict. Dangerous, uncertain. built on a foundation of 3 days and a choice made in defiance of common sense. But it was theirs. And for Hannah, that was